guys, it's Ankita. Welcome to Enchanted Bookends. Today I am going to talk about It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I'm specifically going to analyze the main character, the protagonist, Lily Bloom. And I thought I would do that instead of reviewing this because it's such a popular book, and by now I think everyone in the world has read this book who wants to read a Colleen Hoover book. I recently read this book because I want to watch the movie, and I also wanted to see what this book is like because there's so much controversial opinion about this book, or polarized views. People either like it a lot or absolutely hate it. In general, booktubers tend to dislike this book, and book talkers tend to love and promote this book, and there's a very good reason for that, and I will circle back to it. But if you haven't read this book, let me tell you in short what this book is about, and then you can stop watching the video when I start analyzing the character, because then there'll be some spoilers. But here is a spoiler-free short synopsis of what this book is about. It ends with us. In this book we follow Lily Bloom, our main character, who grew up in an abusive household. Her father was abusive towards her mother, and that really impacted her, as you can imagine. Children who grow up in an abusive household are really vulnerable, and we see Lily Bloom get into a relationship with a guy who has these huge red flags, but she believes that her situation is very different to her mom. She loves him, but she finds herself in a similar situation to her mother, and we see the internal turmoil of this character when she faces similar situations to her mother. And there's also a romance subplot where she tells us about her first love and how that plays into her current situation that she has going with this with her love interest. I won't call this a romance. It deals with serious issues of domestic violence. Don't be fooled by the pink flowery cover. The flowers do have some connection because Lily Bloom, she opens a flower shop, but she does not sell pink lovely flowers, pink yellow bright flowers. She mostly sells these dark purples and blues and black and kind of darker shades of flowers, unconventional. What did I think about this book? I was surprised that I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was going to give it. Based on the reviews that I've read, I thought I was not going to like this, but I did. The writing, however, it's poor writing. So it's a very quick read, but it does deal with really heavier issues. Just know your own triggers before you pick up this book. It's not as it has been marketed. It's marketed like sometimes the one who loves you is the one who hurts you the most. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. That's all I have to say without the spoilers. Now, let's go ahead and analyze the character of Lily Bloom. And for that, obviously, there are going to be some spoilers. And while doing that, I'll also talk about the writing style and why booktubers don't like this as much as book talkers do. I feel majority of book talkers are new readers, new young readers, majority of booktubers, and they really don't want to associate themselves to any book that is poorly written or there's any controversy attached to an author or a book, you know. Anyway, so let's talk about Lily Bloom. Lily Bloom, like I said, she grew up in a household where her mother was abused by her father. Her father is no longer with them, but you know, when an individual grows up in a household where there is abuse, it really impacts them in a way that they become really vulnerable to all the vultures in the society. And that's exactly what we see happen to Lily Bloom. And there are a lot of questionable things she does in the first chapter itself, and it kind of sets the tone of what what headspace she is in. So our main character Lily meets Ryle when Lily is on a rooftop. She has had a tough day. I believe she is back from her father's funeral, which didn't go really well because she didn't like her father because he was abusive towards her mother. Obviously she didn't like her father, and she's on the rooftop alone. And then this guy Ryle walks onto the rooftop, and he is angry, he's frustrated, and he starts kicking a chair that's there, not knowing that Lily is also on the rooftop. And then when he notices that she is there, what's the first thing he asks her? What's your name? That's the first thing he ever says to her. Two strangers on a rooftop, a man and a woman, and this man, the first question he asks Lily is, what's your name? I don't know if it is because Colleen Hoover just doesn't know how to write good dialogue. I think she doesn't, because when two strangers meet, they never really first ask each other their names, unless it's like a corporate situation, right, where someone is introducing themselves because they have to work with someone. That's a very different situation. If it's a business situation, that's different. But this is like two strangers on a rooftop, and that happens on page 7. So you can imagine what my expectations were like going forward, really like. Anyway, they both strike up a conversation, and we learn that Ryle is not really looking for a long-term relationship. Lily is, but Ryle still wants to have a one-night stand with her. And I got a feeling that she would have gone along with it if Ryle didn't get a phone call and didn't get called back to work. Oh, by the way, did I mention he's a neurosurgeon? Anyway, so many red flags, and Lily absolutely does not she either does not recognize them, or she just doesn't know that she should not be responding to this guy. She should not be having a conversation with this guy, and certainly not be thinking of sleeping with this guy. But that's what happens. Is she is 23 years old. She doesn't know what a healthy relationship looks like. And then one more thing, she allows him to take her picture. Imagine you meet a guy for the very first time, no matter how well you strike up a conversation, do you allow a man to take a picture of you? Lily missed out all the red flags. And you might think that this is a very unrealistic situation. Girls cannot be this stupid. Well, you know what? I've seen girls and women do really stupid things. So I don't think it is right to say that no one would ever do this. Then we fast forward, she opens a flower shop in Boston. All of this is happening in Boston. And she meets Elisa. Is that how you say her name? So Elisa walks into Lily's flower shop, and she says that she's looking for a job, and she can do it for free because she doesn't really want money. She just wants to keep herself occupied. And I'm like, okay, this is really unrealistic. Are there any rich people out there who are looking for some work and can edit this video for free? Where are you? Where are you? And you can see again, Lily so easily trusts people, and she immediately likes Elisa. This could have been such a better book if there were a lot of modifications. Anyway, we soon find out that this girl, Elisa, who has offered to work for free, is actually Ryle's sister. And so Lily and Ryle, they meet each other multiple times. Their paths cross, and we learn that Ryle is obsessed with her, or she tells us that Ryle is obsessed with her, and she makes it clear that she wants a meaningful long-term relationship, and he just wants to sleep with her once. That's all he wants to do. In my book on page 71, this is chapter 5. Again, Ryle proposes that let Lily sleep with him once and he will get over the obsession. I really don't understand that, but he's like, please, Lily. He says through self-deprecating laughter, "Please have sex with me." He's looking up at me with puppy dog eyes and a pathetic, hopeful grin. "I want you so, so bad, and I swear, once you have sex with me, you'll never hear from me again. I promise." Didn't the woman say that she wants a long-term relationship, a meaningful relationship? How can you even make this argument? How is this even a valid argument that, you're saying exactly the opposite of what she wants? But here's what Lily thinks. "There's something about a neurosurgeon literally on his knees begging for sex that does me in." That's pretty pathetic. Yes, it is pathetic. Yes, it is absolutely pathetic. All I got was that Ryle was treating her really poorly right from the beginning. Lily finds out that he took a picture of her on the first day that they met. What he does is he frames this picture and puts it in his apartment. What kind of person does that? A psychopath. Anyway, I think that's all part of the story. But red flags that Lily is missing. And then Lily pulls an Anne Boleyn move. She withholds sex. She withholds sex from Ryle. And then we find out that her childhood love is back. But let's talk about those Ellen diaries. Okay, so it turns out that when she was younger, around 15 years old, she used to address her diary entries to Ellen. Ellen from the Ellen show, Ellen DeGeneres. Those were pretty silly. But then again, I was reminding myself, okay, she was 14 or 15. And this is what happens when you grow up in an abusive household. You don't feel that you are really close to any of your family members. And then you start looking for, or you start idolizing these popular figures. And that is, to a certain extent, a little bit dangerous. But yeah, her Ellen diaries were really, really, I didn't even properly read those first couple of paragraphs that she used to talk to Ellen about her shows or something. I didn't give a hoot about it. But yeah, through those entries we learned about her first love, how she fell in love with this homeless boy, and it's a sweet love story, really. And then the childhood love is back. His name is Atlas, and he's back in the present tense when Lily and Ryle have this thing going on, which I honestly don't know what it is. And then in chapter 14, we see that Ryle hurts Lily for the first time, and he immediately apologizes. He's so apologetic, and that's a pattern. Men who abuse women immediately apologize. They're so apologetic. They'll be all lovey-dovey later, but well, the act is done and you can never take that back. It was really shocking, and also the way that the author writes about it, you can tell that she knows what it feels like. She says, again, "In a matter of 1 second, Ryle's arm came out of nowhere and slammed against me, knocking me backward. There was enough force behind it to knock me off balance. When I lost my footing, I hit my face on one of the cabinet door handles as I came down. Pain shoots through the corner of my eye, right near my temple, and then I feel the weight. Heaviness follows, and it presses down on every part of me. So much gravity pushing down on my emotions. Everything shatters. My tears, my heart, my laughter, my soul, shattered like broken glass, raining down around me. I wrapped my arms over my head and tried to wish away the last 10 seconds." Those few lines, I could feel them. But the thing is that after all this happens, instead of telling the truth about this accident, it was all an accident, but the hitting part was not an accident. It was his reaction. Lily has an injury on the corner of her eye, and his arm is burned and it's cut because of the broken glass. But it doesn't really look good, right? So when they go to a restaurant to have dinner with Elisa and her husband, and both of these, Ryle and Lily, Ryle tells a different story for the injuries. And Lily, as a reader, I could tell that he's totally not taking any accountability for what he has done. It turns out Atlas owns that restaurant that they are at, and Atlas looks at the injuries, Ryle's injured hand and Lily's injured eye, and he puts two and two together, and he really sees through all of this. And he stands up for her. But what does she do? She defends Ryle. She does. And then she marries him. Some time passes and she marries him. How long has she known him? Not too long. In that time, he has already hit her once. He has been dishonest. But that's the thing, he continues love bombing her. And it can be confusing for a woman like Lily. You know, it takes 4 seasons to get to know a person. And by that, I don't mean literally 4 seasons, like a year. But you know, if you need to see a person's reaction in every situation, in a crisis, what does the relationship look like when there's a crisis? Second time, he pushes her down the stairs. Again, he apologizes. He tells her that he does it because he loves her and he cannot stand the betrayal. He thinks that she is going behind his back and seeing Atlas, which she is not. And even if she is, he shouldn't react the way he does. And then he makes a big excuse, and the big excuse is that he himself has a traumatic past, and therefore he has these anger issues. It's just no excuse. It does give you a little bit of insight into why he is the way he is. Lily, that is no excuse. And then he goes ahead and buys her an apartment. These big gestures, right? He hits her, he buys her an apartment, you know, trying to show how much he loves her, buys her a fancy apartment. And then it happens the third time. The third time he hurts her is really brutal, it's cruel, and we see Lily in a really bad place at that time, right? She doesn't really know who to call. She doesn't want to call Elisa, and her husband, Marshall, doesn't really want to call them because they have just had a baby, and then she doesn't feel comfortable calling her mother. There could be a number of reasons for that, because her mother put up with her abusive father, didn't really leave him. So she probably is wondering why, you know, if what her mother's reaction would be. But at this point, Lily has made up her mind that she wants to leave. Right, she's no longer wants to be in a relationship, and she calls the one person she feels safe calling, and that's her first love, Atlas. And the same day, she also finds out that she is pregnant. But yeah, anyway, fast forward, there's a lot of emotional turmoil during the months that follow. It must have been really difficult for Lily because she loved Ryle, but then Ryle was violent towards her, and there's really no excuse. And she really doesn't want to be like her mother, who stayed with her father until he died, and she makes the decision to leave Ryle after giving birth to their daughter. What I didn't really understand is that why she shares custody of her daughter with Ryle. I feel the explanation for that is missing in this book. There should have been something. There should have been an incident which made her feel that she would never do that. He would never do that to their daughter. Another thing that was not clear was that why she didn't call the police on Ryle. But I do understand she felt that it would harm his career. Nothing's black and white, right? It's easier said than done, I think. I would have loved Ryle to spend some time in prison, really. All in all, this is a story of a flawed character, Lily, who's really kind. She's vulnerable. She doesn't know how to react. And she does this one good thing, is that she leaves Ryle. So I think the problem with this book is that it has become so popular amongst young readers that they might consider this like a Bible of how you're supposed to react when you are in an abusive situation. No, this is not a Bible. This is just a story about this girl, Lily. And I liked it. I would say the writing like I said, very, very, very poor. I'll tell you how poor it is. Now, recall I said that I'll circle back to why booktubers dislike this book and why book talkers, young readers in general, like this book. I think it's because young readers have just not read a lot of books that are good. All these popular books don't necessarily have good writing, and I had to look up a book that's in first person. Yeah. Now in this book, it's in first person. It's from Lily's perspective. Let me pick a few lines. It's like a little girl writing a story. It's been 53 days since Ryle walked out of my apartment that morning, which means it's been 53 days since I've heard from him. But that's okay, because for the last 53 days, I've been too busy to really give him much thought as I prepared for this moment. Chapter 6, in case you're wondering. That's first person, yeah? Now, here are a few lines from Mrs. England by Stacey Hall. I think the writing in this one is good. Not the best, but it's fairly good. This is how the writing should be, really. 9 months had passed since I'd seen Sim when she attended me at Perryville Gardens for my inspection. Ellen served coffee and madeleines in the sitting room as the principal made notes and Mrs. Radlett hovered. Now faced with her, that time vaporized to dust. I was as damp and nervous as when I'd started, and resisted the urge to mop my brow. I followed her inside and closed the heavy black door behind me. You see, there's a lot of show in this rather than tell. Here, what Colleen Hoover is doing is she's just telling us. She's not really showing us. She tells us she's in Boston, but she doesn't really describe anything unique to Boston. She doesn't really tell us how it makes her feel. Here, the narrator says, I was as damp and nervous when I'd started, so she's kind of describing how she's feeling, and resisted the urge to mop my brow. There was some sweat, she was sweating, she was nervous. It shows us, right? It shows us that she was nervous. Whereas here, what she's doing is she's just telling us, oh, it has been a long time. And I've been busy during those 53, 56 days, whatever it was. Who cares how many days, really, honestly? The third time she said the number of days, I was like, I don't even care how many days it has been. We get it. It has been some time, okay? So that's the difference between show and tell. Tell would be something like, it was a hot day when Trevor was working in the garden. But to show that to the readers, to make the reader feel more immersed in the story, what a writer can instead do is show us why is it a hot day? How did you come to that conclusion that it's a hot day? So you could write, the writer can write something like, the sun was beating down on Trevor, sweat trickled from his temple, his neck red from the scorching rays, as he pulled the last of the carrots from the quickly baking earth. Something of that sort. You get the point, right? So that's the reason why that's bad writing. And there's so much more. The dialogue sucks. It's just all tell. That's why it's so easy to read these books. But at the same time, they don't have as much impact as other books have. And I think that's why Colleen Hoover's books are not very popular with readers who want to read something that's of quality. Anyway, having said that, like I said, I still think the story is powerful as long as you acknowledge that it's not a romance. So romance is kind of a subplot, I would say. Her story, her story from the past, like her romance with Atlas, that could be like a subplot, but really, is it a romance? No. And I think it has been marketed as a romance. I don't know why, but if we were to dissect marketing, we wouldn't have half of the books we have on our bookshelves today. They would be very different books if marketing cared about improving the society, putting out quality stories. I still think quality stories do make it out there, but there are many that do not, and marketing is more about making money more than anything. Anyway, So that's all I have to say about this book. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read this book or if you intend to read this book. I wouldn't be surprised if you don't want to read this book, but I would like to hear your thoughts. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and like this video, and I'll see you next time. Until then, take care. Bye bye.